Here's how I structure my in-season training, strength and conditioning program. First, I'm Flo. I'm a basketball player in Germany, and I went from being a chubby, unathletic kid and barely able to touch the net to dunking, throwing windmills, and being an athletic player. I did this with trial and error and figuring out what works for me, and I want to help you become a better athlete without going through this process. Step 1, you need to figure out what it is you need to work on. Take a piece of paper, something to write on, and write down what is currently holding you back the most athletically. For some people, it might be conditioning. For some people, might be they're overweight, they're not in shape. For some people, might be they're not strong enough and they don't have enough muscle. And other people, it might be they're not explosive enough, or it's a mixture of all of them. For me, when I started, it was everything. Now, let's start where you need to start. The first thing you need to do is get in shape. If you're not in shape, everything I tell you, every exercise is going to be an injury risk. So once you've done that, you can get to the next layer, which is you need to build a base of strength where you're able to put out strength, you're able to be stable, and you're strong. You have a strong, healthy body. Without that, you can't be explosive. Without that, you can't dunk. Without that, you can't play basketball on a high level. Layer 3, explosiveness, rate of force development, being able to have a strength output in a short amount of time, meaning that you can have that nervous system connection to get the force out quickly. Fourth layer is, I call it bring to your tendon, pop to the step. There's a bunch of words for it. It's hard to describe, but just that springiness, that snap when you jump, that's a really important one, and a lot of people don't train that. Now we can get to actually making the program. Little disclaimer, for in-season training, really important to understand is that you're not going to make huge gains. You're not going to go from not touching the net to dunking in the season, because if you actually want to play basketball on a high level, you have to be ready for the games. You have to be focused for the games. You cannot do a bunch of explosive training, extensive plyos before a game. Your legs are going to be fried and you're not going to be able to perform. And I think you should focus on the basketball season and do the big gains after the season. But in season is really important. Keep the bounce, stay healthy. I do have gains in the season, but those are not the gains you make in the off season. I'm going to make a part 2 for the off season training program. There's 2 important concepts I like to use for doing my training program. The first one is buckets. I like to think of there's certain buckets of training, like I just talked about, the things that are important. So there's a strength bucket, there's an explosiveness bucket, there's a plyo bucket, there's a skills bucket, there's a conditioning bucket. I think you understand the concept. Point is to think with team practices, games, what buckets am I already filling? And I think throughout the season, if you have practices every day, then the getting jumps in, getting reps in bucket is going to be pretty full. Think of what buckets do I have to fill, what buckets are being filled, and then when you make your training program, you're like, okay, this bucket is too empty, I need to fill that up. Second concept is I like to keep the high days high and the low days low. So when I do a rest day, I do a complete rest day, and I don't do like a little bit rest day, because then the exhaustion of the day before carries into the next day. So on the days I really go hard, I really go hard. So I do a bunch of stuff. So on the days you have a really hard practice, do a hard lift, get that day out the way. And then the next day, if you're doing a light day, keep that day light so your body can actually recover. Because if you're 50% every day, you're going to be more exhausted than 100% on and 100% off the next day for a week. First, get down all the mandatory team things. That's your practices, your games, your skills sessions, your weight sessions with the team, if you have those. Let's just make an example schedule. Play on the weekend, play on Saturday, have practice on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, let's do shooting, Friday practice, and maybe Sunday off. We can then do the next step, which is figuring out what buckets you're filling. Just think about what you're doing in those days. Every practice is different. Write it down and then think, okay, I've had Sunday off, took it completely off, had a game on Saturday, Monday. I think it was a good day to do some heavier stuff, to do some more exhausting stuff, because the next game is 5 days out and you're going to have enough time to recover. So we can put a leg day. I like to split my trainings into, one day is heavy lifting for strength, one day is explosive lifting, rate of force development, another day is plyos, another day is upper body, and another day is full body. So let's just make an imaginary schedule. Legs, strength, and on Tuesday your legs need some rest, you get in some upper body strength and conditioning, and on Wednesday you do some rate of force development, core on top of that, and then on Thursday you just have a skills session, which is going to be a little lighter, or a shooting session, and then you can sprinkle in some plyos and some maybe other upper body exercises or core, whatever you like to do, or whatever bucket needs to be filled on that day. Friday you have a game the next day, maybe take off with lifting or just do a full body activation. I like to do that. I think you get the concept. So now let's get to the individual days and the exercises I like to do. If you get these workouts down and you put down the exercises you need to do, you're flexible. You can say, okay, today I'm doing a strength day. Today I'm doing an explosive day. This is what I need. Let's start with strength. For maximum strength, I like to do really heavy, 80 to 100% for 3 reps usually. Loaded hamstring curls, you can do those body weight with extra weight, assisted, whatever level you're on. Split squats, rear foot elevated, one of my favorite exercises because it's so versatile. You can do it on basically every day. You can do it heavy, you can do it explosive, and you can make it into a plyo. This is a really great exercise. It helps with knee pain as well and translates to sprinting and jumping positions. You can also go regular squats. I'm not a huge fan. I like to sprinkle it in sometimes, but the risk to reward ratio is not there and it doesn't really improve your bunnies that much. If you're in the beginning stages of trying to get strong, squats are a good exercise just to get that base strength down, but once you're at a certain level, I don't need them anymore. Tripod deadlifts, you can load those up a lot, really nice. Those are also really versatile. You can do it as like a rate of force exercise with jumping and stuff like that, so it's a really good exercise. I think with those exercises you're set. I'm not big into calf training, like I don't do weights for calves. I think if you want to be explosive, you need to do plyometrics, you need to work on your Achilles tendon stiffness, and if you're doing that, your calves are going to be trained automatically and they're going to be trained for the right purposes. Also, major key for strength is you're going to grind the reps, but in your mind you're thinking, I want to go as explosive as possible. This is going to train your nervous system to be more explosive. It sounds weird, but it actually works. For rate of force development, like I said, many of those exercises like the rear foot elevated split squat, tripod deadlift, squats, Nordic hamstring curls, you can all do those with less load and do them more explosive at like 60 to 80-ish% for 6 reps, usually, something like that. With having in mind going as fast as possible, try to do the rep as fast as you can. Tripod deadlift, rear foot elevated split squats, single leg RDLs. You can go explosive. Cleans are a good option, but you really have to get the technique down. It's not something I currently do, but when I started to get more explosive in the beginning for rate of force development, that was an exercise I did. Stagger step deadlift. It's a glute exercise. It's basically you go down into a stagger step and you do a deadlift type hinge motion. And then also hip bridges. Hip bridges are excellent. You can also do them single leg to get that more single leg explosiveness. And I think those are good exercises for ROF. And then next, plyos. A lot of athletes I coach and I talk to are like young athletes. They're strong, they're in the weight room, they're doing weights, but they're doing bodybuilder stuff and they're missing out on this, which is huge gains. This is the most important thing you need to do. Low level plyos to start are skips. Skips are great. Coordination, explosiveness, tendon stiffness. So I think skips is a great place to start. Drop jumps, all sorts of reactive plyos. I mean, there's a million variations of how you can jump, but everything where you are reacting, so you explode off the ground as quick as you can. That's incredible for your bones. That did wonders for me, to be honest. So drop jumps, any sort of variation of that. So you drop on one leg and then explode to the side. It's for like lateral stuff if you need that in your game, and a bunch of other variations you can do with that concept of really low ground contact time. So you drop from somewhere and you immediately explode off the ground. The next is, I'm gonna just call it single leg pogos. It's basically you have 2 weight plates and you're jumping on one leg. This is incredible for coordination, foot stability, foot strength, tendon stiffness. Incredible plyo. I'm gonna put a video in so you can see what it looks like. Also, I'm going to put it in the plyos categories. Technically not a plyo, but sprinting is incredible for your gains. You're going to get faster, obviously. You're going to get more explosive, and it's going to translate to your jump because your coordination in your legs is going to get better. Then also more like technical plyos where you do into a drop step, 1-2, and you jump. You turn 1-2. That's like more advanced stuff for like game specific situations. So you learn to explode out of deep positions. Some overcoming plyos where you sit on a box and then just immediately explode. That's more for your nervous system. Basically means going from relaxed to explosive really fast. This is a major key to developing that nervous system coordination. Let's go to upper body. I mean, upper body is pretty straightforward. It's the classics, the basic compound lifts, bench, pull-ups, dips, rows, shoulder presses. I think the exercises with upper body training are not that important. I think the concept is more important of trying to do it in an athletic manner. You're not a bodybuilder. I'd rather go either heavier for lower reps to get stronger, or less heavy but really explosive to get more explosive. And then also try to do it at the least amount of assistance as possible. So those machines where you're just basically strapped in and just the one muscle is working is going to take away from your gains. So do exercises where your whole body is working together. For example, when I do shoulder presses, I don't sit on a bench and then do shoulder presses. I like to go in a split stance, whatever you want to call it, with one arm. So I work my core, I work my stability, or I do it with in combination with a single leg RDL and then push it up. So I work my entire body and not just that one muscle. You need to work on your traps. If you need to work on your posture, you can do face pulls, all that kind of stuff. And then core training, I think you don't need to be sitting there doing planks for 2 hours and doing all kinds of six-pack exercises and stuff. I don't think that translates to basketball or sports. If you'd like to do it, do it. But the more important core concept is to have something that stabilizes you in movement. So I would focus on, again, trying to connect the upper body and the lower body. For example, pile-off press is a great exercise. I think I posted that before, where you press and you hold against the rotation of the cable or a rubber band or whatever. That really helps you stabilize. Next one is I like to do Russian twists. I think they're good to get stronger in the core. Nothing against traditional core training. I think it's a good thing to start if you're in the beginning stages of I need to get in shape, I need to get strong, do those. But after, it doesn't really translate to sports in that sense. So the concept is more trying to be stable and trying to force yourself in unstable positions and staying stable. Something I do is I have a rubber band on my hip and I have to stay stable. This also engages the core, or similar exercises like that. Now you should have a good idea on how you structure your in-season training program. Always be conscious of when is my next game. I need to be ready for games and practices. I hope you liked the video. If you want to see more, if you want to see the off-season training program, subscribe, hit that like, check out the socials. If you have any questions, DM me on Instagram or TikTok and I'll try to help you as much as possible. Put a comment down below.